It turns out not all female ejaculation is the same, and that fact alone is enough to make so many men scratch their heads and wonder what's really going on between the sheets. Why can one woman release what looks like a tidal wave of fluid while another only produces a few drops that vanish into the sheets before you even notice? Is it your technique that determines whether or not she squirts, or is it something physical and anatomical that allows some women to gush while others don't? And is this mysterious release a result of a special trait that only certain women have? What do professionals know about squirting that beginners usually don't? And of course, the million-dollar question: how can you, with your hands, your tongue, your toys, or your erection, actually make her walls quiver, shake, and squirt if it's something you both want? Well, I'm Dr. Rachel Ross, physician, sexologist, and founder of the Dr. Rachel Institute, and in this conversation I'm going to walk you through all of that and more. And let's be real, subscribing to the channel is 50% of mastering the right technique, so don't forget to tap that subscribe button, because this is a space where you learn things your friends wish they knew but are too shy to ask. Now, before we talk about the how-to, we need to dive deep into the what and the why, because squirting isn't magic, it isn't luck, and it isn't something that only happens in adult films. It is a fascinating interplay of anatomy, physiology, psychology, and technique. Once you understand what's happening inside the body when a woman squirts, suddenly the whole experience makes sense and becomes something you can actually help her reach instead of stumbling in the dark. So let's start with what's happening inside her body when she ejaculates. You see, there's a pair of tiny glands called the Skene's glands, and they sit around the urethra. Some people even call them the female prostate, because the fluid they produce is actually similar to the fluid produced by the male prostate gland. These glands are made up of tiny ducts that empty into the urethra, and when they swell and release, that's where female ejaculation comes from. When a woman is highly aroused, blood flow surges not only to the visible part of the clitoris, the pearl that you see on the outside, but also to the two long internal arms of the clitoris called the crura that stretch deep inside and hug the vaginal canal like a wishbone. At the same time, an area on the upper wall of the vagina, what many people call the G-spot, but what is really just a deeper extension of the clitoral network, swells and becomes extra sensitive. The tissues fill with blood, the Skene's glands fill with fluid, and sensitivity shoots through the roof. This buildup creates pressure, and when orgasmic contractions start to pulse through the pelvic floor, those glands can suddenly release their fluid through the urethra. Sometimes it's a gush, sometimes it's a spray, sometimes it's just a few drops, but it's all female ejaculation. Now here's the first thing pros know and beginners often get wrong: not every woman will release the same amount of fluid. The capacity of those glands varies dramatically from person to person. Some women have larger, more active glands and can gush cups of fluid, while others have smaller ones that only ever produce a little drizzle. That doesn't mean she's less orgasmic, less sexual, or less responsive. It's just anatomy, and on top of anatomy there's arousal level. The longer and more intensely a woman is teased, touched, licked, stroked, and penetrated in ways that build arousal, the more engorged those glands become and the more fluid they'll store up. Then there's muscle coordination. The pelvic floor plays a huge role. When those muscles contract rhythmically during orgasm, they act like a pump, propelling the fluid out. If she can't relax enough to let go, or if she tenses in embarrassment thinking it might be urine, then the release gets blocked. So yes, the ability to squirt depends on a cocktail of factors: her anatomy, her arousal level, her pelvic floor function, and most importantly, her mental state. And here's something I tell men all the time: some women who swear they've never squirted may actually have ejaculated before, but it came out in such small amounts that it mixed with her natural lubrication and went completely unnoticed. In fact, in a survey of more than 1,200 women across the US and Canada, about 40% admitted that they had experienced some form of ejaculation, which means nearly half of women are capable, but many don't even recognize it when it happens. So here's the rule: if a woman can orgasm, she has the potential to ejaculate. The real question isn't can she, but can she let herself? Now let's transition into the psychological part of squirting, because this is where beginners and pros part ways. Beginners think making a woman squirt is just about hammering the G-spot like you're rubbing a magic lamp. They thrust harder, they use more speed, they poke and prod, and then they wonder why nothing happens. Pros, on the other hand, know that the real secret isn't just technique, it's the setup, it's the mental and emotional environment that allows her to surrender. A woman will not release fluid if she's worried about the mess, embarrassed about what's happening, or tense about whether she's taking too long. She needs to feel safe, she needs to feel turned on, and she needs to feel like she has permission to let go completely. That's why seduction, teasing, and trust are as much a part of the squirting equation as any finger or toy technique. Think of arousal like bringing a pot of water to boil. You don't crank the heat on high and hope it bubbles instantly. If you do, you burn the pot. Instead, you start slow, let the warmth spread, then gradually turn it up. You simmer, you bubble, and eventually you reach a rolling boil that can't be stopped. That's how female arousal works. That's how you set the stage for squirting. Here's another psychological truth. Women get turned on in their minds just as much as in their bodies. If she's mentally switched on and relaxed, even imperfect technique can push her over the edge into release. But if she's distracted, anxious, or uncomfortable, even perfect strokes won't get her there. This is why creating an atmosphere of playfulness, safety, and anticipation is so important. When she knows you're not going to judge her, when she trusts you enough to surrender, that's when the floodgates can open. Now that you understand the anatomy and the psychology, let's get to the pro-level strategy. This is the part everyone waits for, but remember, it only works if you've done the first two steps. So imagine you've kissed her, teased her, licked her, whispered to her, touched her all over, and she's writhing, begging for more. That's when you move in on that special spot. But don't just jab straight ahead. This is where beginners blow it. They do the jackrabbit thrust, in and out faster and faster, hoping for magic. But pros know the real hot spot is on the front wall, about 2 to 3 inches in, angled upward, where the internal arms of the clitoris form that spongy patch we call the G-spot. So here's a setup that works wonders. If she's on her back, slide a pillow underneath her hip. This tilts her pelvis and makes the angle perfect for every stroke to glide along the roof of her vagina, right where the magic lives. Use a come here motion with your fingers, slow, steady, scooping upward strokes that press into that spot rhythmic, not random jabs, not frantic pounding, but controlled movements that stay locked on the target. At the same time, stimulate the outside, rub the clitoral hood, kiss her chest, whisper in her ear. Double stimulation is what pushes those glands to engorge fully and release. And here's the golden rule. When she starts breathing in waves, when her hips tilt toward you, when she moans deeper, don't change the rhythm, don't speed up, don't suddenly switch positions. Keep the exact same pace, the same angle, the same pressure. That consistency is what allows the pressure to build until her body can't hold it anymore. And when she feels that urge to urinate, that's the sign, that's the moment she's about to squirt. Reassure her, tell her it's not pee, encourage her to let go. Because when she does, the release is unstoppable. Now, whether you're using fingers, toys, or your erection, the principle is the same. And if you want to last long enough to actually get her there, you need to maintain hardness. That's why I always recommend calculating your erection age. I've created a quick quiz that shows you if your erection is aging faster than you are, and it comes with a personalized plan to reverse that trend. Head over to eage.me right now, or just scan the QR code pinned in the comment, because if you can't stay hard, you can't stay in the game long enough to help her squirt. And once you master this, once you've built her arousal like a simmering pot, once you've locked into the perfect rhythm, and once you've encouraged her to let go without shame, that's when the magic happens. She squirts, she shakes, her walls quiver, and the two of you unlock an experience that feels more powerful, more intimate, and more explosive than anything you've had before. And for those of you who really want to go next level, check out my video on stiffening up naturally. I'll show you a smoothie recipe that keeps your erection rock solid every time. I'm Dr. Rachel Ross, and now you know the truth about squirting, anatomy, psychology, and pro-level strategy, all wrapped up in one continuous flow.